Hey guys, this is Jonathon Henderson with Pressure Washing Marketing Pros, and I got a guy, a ghost, I would say, in the exterior cleaning industry, but he's come back. I'm just joking. David Sessions. I know, man, you used to run Peach State, pressure washing back in the day, man, and you sold that company. I know that you guys were doing about 500 to $600,000 in revenue. Now you have Mint Mobile Detailing out there with a valuation of $2 million. Also, and I know that we're going to talk today about guys knowing their marketing. Now, I know that was long-winded, but nice to have you, David.
Hey, yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I do.
I had to introduce you properly, man. And so, like I said, David's been in the exterior cleaning industry. I know he's worked with a lot of guys. And what we wanted to talk about, because I know beforehand, I know we didn't hit the record on all of this stuff, man, and you were out there preaching gospel, and you're gonna have to preach the gospel again, David. But we were talking about essentially how guys, especially when you're in that beginning stages of your business, from zero to like 600,000, $700,000 a year, but really zero to $600,000 a year, how you have to hold your marketing agency accountable. You have to go ahead and know at least somewhat of your marketing, how Facebook ads work, how funnels work, how sales processes work, how different marketing channels work. So, David, I'm going to let you go first because I know this is something that was sparked because of a Facebook post, man. And so, tell me a little bit about like what you see with a lot of not just in the exterior cleaning industry, but just in trades in general, like home services in general, what you've been seeing, man.
Yeah, I mean, home service business is something I've been doing for a decade now, and I think talking to entrepreneurs a lot, day in and day out, for some years, it seems like I was talking to one the other day, and it really bothered me because there's always like a problem, right? Like everyone as a small business owner has a problem they're solving. That's like literally what you do. You solve problems. But I think coming off of this call, I felt like, particularly he was being hard on himself because like he couldn't figure it out or like it wasn't for him or like whatever. And talking to him, like it wasn't due to lack of effort, right? Like this dude was checking all the boxes and trying to do all the bluegrass, pounding the pavement type of work for marketing his business and still wasn't able to generate leads. And, it starts to creep in this self-doubt that like maybe you're just not good at this, right? And it's like, dude, I really think sometimes it's really darkest before the sun comes up, and I think it's because like you've got to really go through those moments and really just bear down and understand like what is it that I'm missing here, right? And because it's not singular, you're not having this singular moment that only you as an entrepreneur have had. Like everyone has it. And I was just telling you, I think that there's like these different levels of business owners, right? So like 0 to 150 for pressure washing or detailing is like generally like that beginner stage where I wouldn't even recommend you necessarily needing like any kind of marketing company. And even I think Jonathan, as you own a business in marketing, you would probably agree like
I would
there.
agree.
Yeah, it just like when you start talking about spending 50% of your ad spend on the company itself, it starts to be counterproductive, and you could probably generate that same amount of revenue just with some basic knowledge and tips. But once you get to that next level where you're spending more time with the amount of employees that you're having to hire or the leads that are coming in from that marketing, then you have to look elsewhere or figure out how to bring it in house, right? And have someone knowledgeable that understands how to, the amount of effort and time that you'll see you have to put into marketing is a full-time task. Like you're going to have to hire someone for that or hire out for that. And so I think at that level, like once you get to that level, it probably goes up to about that 600 range, and you have to start then learning how to implement really good systems. And those systems will get you past that $1 million mark, and then you have to start developing good management teams, right? And so to really scale it to that next million, and so having to talk with someone that's like a step or two above you to like tell you, hey, this is everyone up here went through that same thing right at that level, and you're having to figure it out. And I don't want like, because when guys give up, like the other thing I see is like guys in businesses will like turn around and be like, okay, you know what, I built, they see some guy on Facebook, it's like, I built my business, I've never spent $1 in marketing. And it's like, okay. And they're like, I've been in business for 12 years. It was all word of mouth. And by the way, I'm not knocking word of mouth. Like you need to have good service so that you can have repeat customers, help lower your acquisition costs. Full believer in the chain reaction of good customer experiences. But I don't have 12 years to give on this journey. You know what I mean? To building up what you built. Like I need to do that in 12 months. And so, when you understand the urgency behind building something and you can kind of convey that to the people around you, that's when you really start to see the needle move as an entrepreneur. If that's your hope, right? If you want to scale it, if you're trying to get a large company and try to see where you can take that on that level, like you have to be able to convey this urgency. And part of that is marketing, right? If you can say, okay, look, everyone's got to come to work, we're going to work hard and we're going to spend all this money, and I'm going to go get a banker to understand the urgency and give me money so that I can build out my company, but I have no leads. Well, then you're just a guy with a bunch of tools and it's not a business. And so, like, everything is connected, and entrepreneurship is a tightrope walk where you're getting pulled in 20 different directions. And so it was just a frustrating call, and I've like, got on Facebook and posted some stuff for a couple of days to, I think, more so vent, and then you reached out to me. So here we are.
Yeah, man. No, of course, because I know that what you were saying really resonated with what I was already thinking, and what even me, man, in the marketing, because I can be viewed, and you did car sales at one point in your career, right? In your life, you did car sales, and not every car salesman is a bad person, right? Not every, but that is like the stigma that people have is like, oh, this car salesman, I'm waiting for the pitch, I'm waiting for the negative thing he's gonna tell me. It's just like in marketing agencies, right? People are waiting for like, what is this guy going to do? Is he credible? Is he honest? And so the one thing that I really like that you were talking about is guys taking ownership of their marketing, guys being accountable, because our best clients, guess what? They know the value in which what we're doing, and what we're doing for them. So quick story, funny enough, yesterday, and if he's listening, hey, it is what it is, right? But I had a client reach out to me and he's like, hey, Jonathan, you know what, man? We're gonna stop your ads management services just because I'm gonna, just keep the ads running, keep everything going as is. What the client didn't know was that we had shared all of our assets to his account, right? So I always believe the first rule that people should always have is you should always own any marketing endeavor that you do, right? Your account, your Google Ads account, you should own your website, you should own your Facebook account, you should own all of these marketing levers, which this client did own. And so the biggest thing about him is that he thought that, hey, because we have like call tracking, like even when you used to run ads with this, David, like you have the call tracking stuff that we've set up. We have like automations that we already have that we've been using for his stuff. You know what I mean? So that we can make sure that we're bidding correctly. And so for him, he was just like, hey, man, keep all of this stuff running, right? And then we don't want your management anymore. So I asked him, I said, do you think it's going to perform the same? And he's like, yeah, I think so. I was like, why do you think it's going to perform the same? Because he's like, you just set it up, man. That's it. Like, you just set it up and that's all you did. And it's like, dude, that's not all I did. But it was my fault because I didn't convey the value that I'm bringing to him. So once I did, he was like, dude, I'm not doing all that myself. Right. Because we hopped on a video call and I showed him exactly everything that we're doing. And he's like, dude, I'm not going to do all that. Never mind. I'm just going to have you continue to keep doing what you're doing. And I feel like what you were saying, a lot of guys, like you had said earlier, before we even started recording, is that guys just give up, right? Because they're like, I'm going to just go revert back to word of mouth. I'm going to just revert back to this because what? They don't understand. And the thing is that we all don't understand when we first get into something. Do you think I understood SEO when I first, you know what I mean, embarked on that journey of learning it? No, I didn't know what Google Ads was. I didn't know any of this. We all start from knowing zero knowledge to getting knowledge. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would think that's not even an example of so much so as like a business owner, entrepreneur giving up so much as just like not understanding the service, right? Like that sounds like a person that got to the point where he was like making good enough money and thought, oh, now I can spend this on marketing and like I'm really gonna double up on this money. And then like didn't want to understand how to do it, didn't want to do any research and saw one of your videos, read some good reviews, and was like, "I'm gonna hire, this company." And
Yeah.
like, you don't understand then what the input is for the output that you're requesting, right? And
Yeah.
so when you come to when I come to you and I go, "Hey, man, I think it's gonna run itself," it's like. That's not what we're putting into it. I know that you like the output, but like it's not as simple as like, hey, and it's confusing because now like everyone's like, oh, you just AI it, you know what I mean? It's like that's
Yeah.
not how that works. And so um Yeah, I think just a better knowledge of what he's asking from people would create a better working relationship with the people that he hires moving forward. And I would advise him to try to um, book some tutoring lessons. Or so I was telling you before we
Yeah.
hit record, like there's a whole bunch of free resources out there to better understand what you're asking from people that you're hiring. As third party vendors that help support your business, you need to understand how to set proper expectations because you obviously don't want them to underdeliver for the money that you're paying them, but you also can't hold them to standards that they couldn't possibly meet. Because then all you're going to do is keep turning over marketers, and before you know it, it's been 2 years, $60,000 later, and you still don't have a plan, right? And so, yeah, I think Wizamp is a great one. If you ever get on there and want to like do a
Udemy.
tutoring session,
Yep,
do
Udemy.
what?
Well, Udemy as well.
Yeah, like what is the other one? Coursera. Coursera
Sarah.
is great for like free if you want to do free online courses. I think I took one from Berkeley on there that was like it just go. I used to use this all the time on my YouTube channel as a phrase, but like a golden nugget, and I picked something up in there on SEO that really helped me like better understand um, how to like do some stuff with metadata and I've better understood geo targeting and geo fencing and all this kind of stuff and like what how that benefits service businesses. And so like just trying to get on there and have more knowledge of. I always tell my guys like whatever service I'm pressure washing, deck staining, gutter cleaning, detailing. It's like be a master of your craft, right? So if you've chosen to be an entrepreneur, your job is not to get out with the guys and clean the cars or clean the gutters or the houses. You have a responsibility to those guys to make sure that the calendar's full, the bills are paid, insurance is done properly, the company's making enough margin, charging enough on their jobs, closing enough higher rates. Like these are the things, and you can't do those if you're in the field. If you can't do those if you're sitting at a desk running marketing all day. And so you have to do a little bit of each, I think, as you build your business and understand what you need in that position from your business. Like that's the other thing I think is like I've walked into businesses that don't necessarily need the same thing as the next pressure washing business as far as like systems or the way that they're just set up. It works differently for them and it works for them. The margins work for them. So that's all that matters. And so like understanding your business is good. And I love doing this, not even just for marketing, but like, and I think entrepreneurs see this, right? Whenever they hire like an actual laborer, they're like, "Oh, I wanted to do that position, so I knew what I was asking you to do when I hired you. Like I know, how much to pay you and what to expect from you because when you say you can't do this much, I can tell you, well, I did that much, right?" It's like, okay, so why don't you take that attitude to accounting, to marketing, to, you know what I mean,
Bingo.
insurance,
Yeah.
like why aren't you
Yeah.
approaching that the same way that you do with your labor or any other position you would have in your company? So like I wouldn't hire a dispatcher and never have answered my own phone before. You know what I mean? Like I would obviously have
Yeah.
wanted to create a sales script for this dispatcher, therefore I have to answer the phone for a while and tweak it and see what works and doesn't work for my business, and then go hire a dispatcher. Same thing in marketing, same thing in accounting or your tax person. So yeah, maybe that's a wise way to look at it. It's just like approach it all as if you're hiring a laborer.
No, you, dude, you just and I've always thought of that, but I like now, dude, I'm gonna steal that because I'm gonna look at it in that kind of way. I'm gonna steal that, to be honest with you, because I've always said it in that way that for anybody that I talk to, even my own team, because you're right, as an entrepreneur, it is our duty to solve problems at the end of the day. Like I was telling you in our messages, I was like, at the end of the day, we're not the person that's like, oh, well, I gotta do the technical proficiency here, there. Like when you have a team and you're really trying to grow your business, they're looking at you to solve any problems. And for us, even as a marketing company, our clients, they don't give a damn how hard we tried. They care about, can you solve this problem for me in that sense? It's just like a homeowner. A homeowner doesn't care like if you're doing if there's rust on a driveway or oil on the driveway and you didn't set the proper expectation and they think that that oil can be 100% removed from that driveway in that sense, they don't care what you tell them. You know what I mean? That's their expectation, right? And so it is about expectations, but also, like you said, about us as entrepreneurs. If and I want you to talk about what you had said because Another thing that you have brought up too was about your expectations and what you have for your vision. If you're doing 150,000 and that's all you want to do is, like you said, take a $100,000 salary, have one or two guys maybe on your team and you can go on vacation whenever you want to, this may not be the talk for you then. Because at that point, like you had brought up earlier, and you can elaborate, more after this, is that you can learn your own marketing, like run your own Facebook ads, do your own video marketing, know enough for your own website. Well, you'll get enough leads to justify the kind of vision and life that you want for yourself. But if you want to scale past like 300, even $350,000 a year, if you want to even scale past that, you have to go ahead and have some sort of systems, have some, you have to stop trading your time for, you know what I mean? You have to stop trading your time and you have to exchange your money for time to get back that time so you can do what, David? Just like you said, learn your marketing stuff, learn your sales stuff. Because man, you hit that on the head. I'm about to have you talk more about it. Is that one thing that I see, guys, and what I see differences between two pressure washing businesses is that one guy is just kind of like he stays in his comfort zone. So there'll be guys that are doing less than $100,000, David, less than $100,000, right? A year. And they're like, dude, I'm running local service ads. I'm like, what other marketing are you doing? They're like, oh, dude, I put out some door hangers and I did that. And like, but I get majority of my leads from like local service ads. And I'm like, how many leads are you getting? Like 40 to 50 leads. And so I'm like, well, what else are you looking to do now? And they're like, well, I need Google ads now. And it's like, dude, have you progressed yourself as a business owner to know what it's like to not have leads and then to be able to solve that problem? You know what I mean? And so I say it's the progression that we all go through as entrepreneurs that you have to go through. You can't just rely on like outside sources like ads or anything like that to make up for your deficiencies. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I think when I think that guys, first off, I think that there's like steps to marketing. You know what I mean? Like for me
Yeah.
at least, I've always been a very conscientious owner when it comes to where I spend my money, especially in the beginning. And
Mhm.
so like if you can get out there and talk about your company, right? If you can go to festivals, community events, door hanging, like all of this stuff. Like I used to, if you go back and look at some of my like first YouTube channels, like it used to be something that I was really big on was like not spending money. Because
Yeah.
I think that as like if you're being a financially like conscious business owner and you're looking at your budget in the beginning, every dollar could go back into the company and growing it some way, you need to do that. And so if you can make your marketing dollars stretch farther, then do that, right? And so for me, it was like, yeah, you could pay someone $750, $1,000, $1,500 to run some kind of campaign for you on some level, and then also include the ad spend on top of that. Or you could turn around and just like buy door hangers until, because look, in the beginning, if you're telling me you got 3 days a week that's free, you should be door hanging. You shouldn't be ad spending. You don't have any money to ad spend. You have 3 days a week. You need to fill in your capacity. So, like, maximize your capacity. And until you've maximized capacity where you don't have time to walk around and do door hanging, then you go, okay, all right, now I don't have time. What's my next step? Right. And so, this is the progression I think you're talking about is where, like,
Yeah.
once you run out of time, then you have to take your money and buy that time back to go put it in something else in your business. And eventually, if you make wise enough decisions and make right investments and get a little lucky, I think that you find yourself sitting at the top where like there's not quote unquote problems to really solve anymore, right? And that's where everyone sees them when they most people start their journey, it's passive income, right? Like that's the two
Yeah.
words that everyone's got on their mind. How can I like collect 200 grand a year and sit at home and not do anything and like um, that is definitely like a possibility, but it starts in steps. And when you skip steps, you generally set yourself back in one way or another, right? Like even if you get lucky and you hire Jonathon Henderson, right? Like if Jonathan's really good at his job, but like if he would still tell you like, dude, you don't have enough budget for this to make sense for my fee, right? And like at that point, I'm not telling you you're poor. I'm just telling you that you have like you're on a different step. And if
Yeah.
he doesn't tell you that, then financially he's setting you back, right? And so once you fulfill that mode, then it's like, okay, I don't have time anymore to do this. How can I do this without time? I don't think even then the next step is hiring a marketing company. I think then it's trying to figure out how can I run Facebook ads and set up a campaign one night while I'm eating dinner and spend a few days A/B testing it, learning how to do this. And even if I'm not good at it, figuring out like how hard this is and what you have to do to, put it to get what you want out of it, so that in 6 months of me struggling and tutoring and barely getting it to where I want it to be, and it's like, okay, now it's working. And then a year later, I hit 200 grand. I'm like, now it's time to hire Jonathan, right? Because like now I need more than just a Facebook ad campaign, this simple Facebook ad campaign at that, and like put some layers to this thing, add some retargeting, attach a pixel. You know what I mean? Like here's some stuff that we can do to mirror the audience that you've already built with all the hard work all the, unpaid marketing labor you put into your business. And that's where hiring someone becomes beneficial. Or in my instance, and not your favorite saying, I generally bring it in house, right? Once we get to a point where I have to pay somebody 4 or 5 grand a month, like I might as well bring it in house and teach you how to make content while you're sitting here. So, I think if you're not ready to pay somebody 50 to $75,000 a year, then there is a marketing company out there. And I think once you get past the 50 or 75, you have to start looking at marketing companies again, because there's only so much you can grow your company and hire a second or third market. You're like, all right, we're spending 400 grand a year on just salaries in the marketing department here. Like, how much revenue do I have to grow every time to add a marketer, right? And I'm not about to get into like the way I look at my business. Like, I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to, I have to, I have to
we,
add so much revenue to have a dispatcher. I have to add so much revenue to do a manager. And like, there's certain ones that I have to put in place. Marketer, to add a second marketer would be way down the line in front of a lot of other growth. And so at that point, it's like, what do we do in between the first marketer and all this growth? We're going to have to buy back his time, right? Now we got to buy back his time. He's only got so much time, and he's become valuable. So now we got to go get Jonathon Henderson to do this, that, and the other, because he's doing content creation in house now. That's all he can do because we have so many projects. Um, and like it is a ever evolving thing. It's like I've heard people refer to their business as a baby. It is an ever evolving thing. Marketing is like you're going to have strategies that evolve and change and reshape, and you're going to do things that people are like, oh, that's anti this or that's anti that. Like, you need to do what's best for your business and what's best for the budget and the stage of growth that you're in, right? If you're a baby, don't get up and try to run, right? And when you're a full sprinter, don't swear up and down all you have to do is just sit around on your ass all day. Like, you're a full sprinter. You know what I mean? Like, or you took 15 years to become a full sprinter instead of 2 or 3 because you did sit around and just wait for word of mouth to eventually build up a capacity that could create passive income. Which I would imagine today's day and age, everyone is going to catch you in marketing. It's so much harder, I think. If you started something in 25 and just tried to build it by word of mouth, I could build 5 companies in that time, right? And like, it just seems insane that you would choose that route, I think, at this point.
But I think the reason why people choose that route and what they don't understand is and no offense to these old heads, because I'll call them old heads, but they're going to talk about guys that started their business 25 years ago, right? So when you started your business 25 years ago, of course, if you've been running for your business for 25 years in that sense, you're going to have that objective. You're going to have that such a large database in that sense, and the reputation and the contracts and that investment into that community, that at that point you're not going to have to market like the young kid who just started their business a year ago, right? Who's like, who hears this guy say, I built my business off word of mouth. So now they're like, oh, I want to build my business off word of mouth too. And it's like, you're in a different timeline and you're in a different environment than that individual was. So one thing also that I hear too that we were talking about earlier, and you made very great points, is that like let's look at location. I can't expect to get the same amount of pressure washing leads or detailing leads that you would get in Atlanta like you are right now if I'm in Joplin, Missouri, right? So you'll hear guys where they'll say, dude, this guy in Seattle was killing it on Facebook ads, man. And I'm like, well, where are you located, dude? Oh, well, I'm located in Ladero, Texas, right? And it's like, dude, you got like 50,000 people. The income, the demographic of people out there, like the highest 10% of earners out there are making like $70,000 a year, household income, not individual income, household income. So it's like like the household income in Seattle, the average is like $150,000. You know what I mean? In that sense. And so you have to look at it and you have to be, all right, then, just like you said, you have to study your market. These are things that like a marketing company shouldn't have to necessarily tell you in that sense, right? They shouldn't have to, but I tell our clients that. But a marketing company, if you, like you said, David, if you look at other kind of factors and you really, I think that what guys have is they have a gap between being a real business owner and being like just an operator guide, or it's like, hey, also you have to look at it. What's your definition of busy? Some guys will listen to other guys and they're like, oh, bro, I'm booked out 2 weeks. But it's like that guy's booked out is 3 days, working 3 days a week. And this other guy's booked out is like, I have 5 jobs, 7 days a week, right? So you have to look at your capacity. I know you want to say something, man. What's up?
No, I was just thinking about what you said. I think it's just like I've heard people talk about like the difference between being like having an employee mindset and employer mindset, and I
Yeah,
really do think that like sometimes that's where it's hard, dude. Like where I came from, I was telling you like I've worked places where I've worked 80 hours a week and like
yeah.
done this for month in and month out, and like wouldn't sniff $90,000, and
But you
then
got
turn around.
rewarded though. You got rewarded for those hours that you put in and for being specialized in one particular skill, though, correct?
No, so look, I'm talking about before I got into entrepreneurship. Like most guys that go into this kind of stuff, pressure washing, detailing, any service business, you generally don't have a background where you were making $250,000 a year as a financer, right? Like
Yeah,
it usually is that you were working in some kind of line of work that was service related, and you thought, dude, like I make these people a lot of money, and I'm a pretty smart guy, and I could figure this out. That's where I came from. You know what I mean? It was just like I just want to do a little bit better. And
mhm,
then as I got into it, I was like, oh, hold on a second. You know what I mean? And then I figured out how to start running my business and then started kind of like trying to get out there and build my network of other entrepreneurs and be able to lean on resources and find like, two things that are disparaging is one is entrepreneurs that like just don't have that network and so they think these things that are happening to them are singular and it must be them, or the flip side is that you find a network, but you find out that that network's only there to figure out how to exploit your fear, right, as an entrepreneur.
yeah,
And so,
uh,
and not to say that that's the only two options, because I've certainly found great people to network with. We've had a relationship now for like 8 years or
yeah,
something. It's
yeah,
been a
man.
while, and so. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely great people out there to talk to and great organizations to be a part of. But like as you get out there, you do find there are these outliers though, and you're like, okay, how do I go help this person understand that like me years ago, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to make a bunch of money for somebody and only make 60 grand a year and work 50, 60 hours a week. Like you can go build this, but there's risk involved, right? And there's a lot of unpaid labor up front. And there's a lot of sleepless nights. And so I think being organized, being structured, all that stuff helps. Understanding that like you have to start, you put one foot in front of the other, right? And like once you get to that point where the same risk that you took when you jumped from being in a full-time job to being an entrepreneur, you have to jump that risk again from being an employee of your company to the employer of your company. And there is a point at growth where that happens. And if you don't take that, you're ultimately, and this is where I had to take, like I took the step, just it wasn't even, I wouldn't have thought for me because I felt such a responsibility to the few guys that we had already hired. I
Uh-huh.
mean, that like to me, it was like, if we don't take it, like it's a slap in the face to them every day. I show up and look them in the eye because I know they're not going anywhere. Right. Like, and that sucks because now you're just creating what you wanted to get out of. And I never wanted to be a part of that. And so my thing was always to push myself and take those risks and have faith that like through hard work and understanding, we were going to figure it out. And we were rewarded for that risk. And there was luck involved. Look, there's always luck involved in entrepreneurship. I was walking my dog at a park one time, picked up a city contract. It was crazy as shit.
Uh-huh.
So like it happens. But yeah, I think ultimately you got to get to that employer mindset because you owe it to the people that you do employ, and
Owe it to
then
yourself ultimately too.
do what?
I said you owe it to yourself ultimately as well because you're right. But I think what I
Yeah,
meant by
but for some reason, psychology wise, people could owe it to themselves and not care nearly as much as owing it to
yeah,
someone else. I
to
don't know why that
somebody else.
is.
And you're right because even for me, we have 13 I have 13 people working on my team right now. And guess what? I don't think about ah, am I going to be able to eat? Because I know I'll always be able to make money, whatever I do, right? I worry about like can they achieve their goals while they're here? You know what I mean? Can they achieve their goals? Can they be the person that they want to be within this construct that I've built, right? Can I help them achieve their goals? But I think that even for the audience that we're talking to right now, the first step would just to be knowing what you want, right? Like knowing what you want out of your company. So like if like you talked about earlier, if you just want to do $150,000, do that, then knowing what you want, you may not need a marketing agency, or if you do need a marketing agency, then at the very least, because for example, I have a client that's in Warner Robins, Georgia, right? He knows who he is. Great, been a client of ours for 7 years now, right? So for him, he does it part time, right? He probably makes about $150,000 a year in this sense. He also works a full-time job. But the thing that he knows, he's like, look, man, he knew a little bit about SEO and different things like that, consequently because he was working with like agencies that didn't know what they were doing before he started working with us, right? So we kind of learned a little bit on the way. But for him, he just utilizes us just for his marketing. We get him about 20 to 40 leads every single month in that sense. And that is kind of what he does, and that's what he relies on. But he knows that. So he doesn't come to me saying, like, Jonathan, how come the leads are slower this month? Or, hey, Jonathan, like, what can we do to be more aggressive? He knows exactly what he wants, right? And so I think what a lot of guys have to do is first know where you want to take your business. Because if you want to have employees, if you want to have these different type of avenues, or if you want to grow past even 350, I always say $350,000. I always say that. That's like the spot that I see where most guys just get stuck at in the mobile detailing, exterior cleaning, all of that, because you can like get away with like maybe having a helper and yourself and make 350,000, but you're probably working 6 to 7 days a week. You know what I mean? Working at night, doing different things like that, to where you'll never be able to plateau. Or some guys, what they'll do is they'll use services like ours, right? And then they'll quit doing everything else that got them to $350,000, right? So they're like, oh, dude, I built my business off, we used to put out this many door hangers. We used to do this many yard signs. We used to hit up our customers during this time. They'll work with a company like ours that are generating just the same amount of leads as they were getting doing those other avenues, but then they get comfortable, right? And they're like, hey, I'm comfortable now. I'm generating the same amount of leads. And guys wonder why. They're like, dude, I'm actually like getting this, they're getting the same amount of leads, but they quit doing what they were doing previously, right? I had a client come to me and say, Jonathan, we did the same amount last year as we did this year. And we think that, paying you has been part of that. And I'm like, what do you mean by that, man? And then I asked him, because I didn't take it to offense. I just said, what else have you been doing for your marketing? He said, we've only been using you this year. I said, dude, that's a compliment, because that means that all the stuff that you're doing prior to us in that sense, right? Everything that you're doing prior to us in that, guess what? It got you to 250,000 or whatever it may be. You stopped doing all the things that got you to $250,000 when you started working with us, right? And you still did $250,000. So what happens if you just start doing those things again? And that's why guys never break past this plateau, right? They never break past it, because I have a client, you know who he is. You know who he is. He went to your trade school convention thing. I'm not going to call him out right now. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But for him, man, he had literally was doing $30,000 months, right? $30,000 months. We 3x the amount of leads that he was getting. You know what I mean? So he was probably getting about 30 to 40 leads before us. We 3x that to where he was getting like anywhere between 80 to 120. Guess what he was still doing, dude? A year later, $30,000 a month. And I found out why. There's two reasons why, and this is the biggest reason. And I'll let you talk after this to see if and to see if like you agree with this. It was a mindset issue, to where he wanted, as humans, we seek comfort. We don't seek success. We don't seek things that are good for us. We seek comfort in everything that we do. You know what I mean? So for him, even if he got 100 leads, he's only going to close the amount that he's comfortable with, which was $30,000 worth of leads. You know what I mean? Of jobs in that sense. No matter how many leads you get him, he's always going to close $30,000 worth of leads, no matter how many leads you get him, right? And then the second thing was an operational issue, to where he couldn't handle the phone calls. But I'm not saying there could be different operational issues. Do you agree with that? Have you seen that yourself too?
Yeah, so here's the trick to this, and this is what I meant by a tightrope walk where you're getting pulled in 20 directions, is because he is not, again, this isn't singular to him, and I don't know that he's doing it on purpose. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people want to increase their revenue, but don't, it's not just about increasing your marketing, right? Like as you're increasing your marketing, you have to, there's this risk again that you have to take where it's like I got to go hire someone before the work's there and train them so that we have more capacity to take on more jobs in order to increase our monthly revenue. Like if your capacity is $32,000 a month and you're already at that, I don't know what you hired Jonathan for unless it was just like, hey, I don't want to hand out yard signs anymore, and like I just want to. Where I'm cool with like skimming another 2 grand out of my own pocket so that Jonathan can do this for me or whatever. If you
Yeah.
see the value in it, then that's fine. But like, if you're expecting it to triple for you, but you didn't triple your trucks, you didn't triple your office staff, you didn't triple your like, you didn't go in and create systems to allow for better workflow to handle the volume, like those types of things have to grow with your marketing and sometimes before your marketing and your lead gen, which means before your revenue. Right. Like we're doing it right now. We are about to get ready to hire a general manager, frankly, about 6 months before I need to, and pay him a salary of 6 months where I'm going to have to like work with him and build, you know what I mean? Like work him into our system over 6 months. And it's like, I really could wait 6 months and do it all myself and like save that money, but like that's short-sighted, right? And so like you have to figure out like as soon as I get ready to grow, is he 6 months in or am I hiring him because now we got the volume? It's like no, when I that volume hits, he has to be ready because if he doesn't, then my quality score drops for my customer experience, and if that happens, then my it ultimately goes back to marketing because now my acquisition cost seems to be going up, and you think it's because your marketing is bad, and it's really because your customers from before aren't coming back. So like it's a chain reaction, and that's what I mean by a tightrope getting pulled in so many directions because it's risk and it's this is the shit that keeps you up at night, dude. Do I hire this person? Do I hire a dispatcher or a receptionist? Do I invest in these marketing guys? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes, 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 and more. Yes.
But
Like
at
just
what time, right?
yeah, yeah. The answer is always yes, and then figure it's the timing. If you can time this right, you know you won't fall off the wire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you're at, you know. Anyways, look, I will say this. I think there's a lot of free marketing that you can do out there. I think there's a lot of ways that you can understand basic marketing, and as far as like digital marketing. And then I think there's a point at which you can understand like what you're asking from a marketer. And I really was just venting on Facebook, to be frank with you, after that call, because I just felt like this dude feels like he's singular, and I really haven't put a lot of stuff out there in about a year and a half because I just
Been
got
busy
out of
grinding, bro.
honestly I just got away from consulting. We do have, my wife and I do have a marketing company, and but we handle companies that are more in the 10 or $12 million range generally. And so we've kind of gotten away from having those individual conversations with small business owners and started I like I like solving big problems, and so it's a real joy of mine to like work with companies that size. And when I got to have this conversation for the first time in a while with this guy, I was like, I forgot how important it is to like talk to those people in the beginning, because so many of those people in the beginning, like you have to be the guy in the beginning at some point, right? Like you got to start somewhere.
Oh, we all
Um,
were. You
yeah,
remember me when I was a guy in the beginning, man. You remember me when I was a guy in the beginning.
and
You
p-
know?
people don't always think, they look around and think, oh, they had it figured out. I'm not cut out for this. Like, it's just not the case. And so I was venting, and then I got to thinking, if I'm gonna vent about this, like just on some like make me feel better shit, I was gonna bring 5 or 6 guys in from across the southeast if they would come out, if they're willing to pay, and do like a free workshop and just like try to implement and share some of this knowledge that I've accumulated and worked very hard to get with some people and see if it can't benefit them in some positive way. Um, we've gotten so much feedback about it, man, and so many requests to join this. Like it may end up being a thing where we end up it because of the cost of like associated with trying to do more than 5 or 6 guys. Because I'm happy to swallow some money to bring out and probably help someone, but on a scale of like 30 to 40 or 50 people, like there's probably be a cost associated with it, and people are saying like I'll pay it. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to do the most, and much like trade school convention when we did that a few years ago, like that was the most cost effective way I could put that on and still pass on knowledge and have guys network and communicate with each other in a positive manner. And so, for me, like I'm gonna try to figure that out here in the next week or so, and once I do, I'll slip you a notice so that you know, and maybe you can put it out there for some guys in pressure washing. I'd love to see some guys in pressure washing. I was just thinking the other day, like when you have insight, because when we did the consulting, I got to go around, meet all these other businesses and stuff, and really gather insight to HVAC and roofing and concrete and construction and real estate, and like you find all these plumbing, electrical, these service businesses, and like you realize that like no matter what industry you're in, you have the same pain points, the same bottlenecks, the same friction points for online checkouts for customers or whatever, right? Cancellations, whatever it is. And so I really hope to see a diverse industry show up if we go through with putting it on and like having 30 or 40 businesses, 50 businesses come out. Because I think it gives people a different perspective of like the struggles of entrepreneurship and how it's not just them. But also like I'll tell you this, like from someone that's never done like film, like wrapping cars, like color change wraps and stuff like that. Um, I now am trying to figure out why window cleaners do not offer window tint. So like we currently deal with a window tinter that does auto window tinting, but like most auto window tinters, they also will offer mobile commercial window tinting for buildings and restaurants and like whatever, right? And so I saw a guy driving the other day. I drove by him and he was outside cleaning a storefront window. And I was like, why is he not walking in and tinting the inside of that glass afterwards? Right? Like you just cleaned that glass. You did half the job. Well,
I
a
know
tenant
you.
would be mad at me. It would be like
Yeah,
15%
yeah.
of the job, but still, like you seriously, I think there's some stuff to be able to learn from somebody and get a different perspective from someone offering a different industry and go, oh wait, hold on a second. Is that something I can do? How does that help me? Where's that golden nugget in that conversation? So hopefully that's something that we can put together pretty soon.
Yeah, man. And by the time this video comes out, you know what I mean? You'll probably have that ready because this video, I know you guys are all listening to this right now, but it'll be a week from now. So by the time people will see this video, just shoot me that information. You know what I mean? And I'll send you the video too. But yeah, dude, it's always good catching up with you, man. You know what I mean? Always good catching up with you. Like I said, I hope you guys took some good golden nuggets from this. Where can the people find you, right? Just Facebook, David Sessions. I think you're the only David Sessions I know, man. You know what I mean? That's like,
Yeah, look, y'all find me on Facebook right now. If you're a detailer, eventually, and I know that you just do pressure washing,
oh,
but
no,
I'll be sharing this. Do
there's
what?
detailers, dude, if you
Yeah.
see my audience, there's detailers that are in my audience too, man.
I'm working with Tony Ralda in Virginia that does like Ralda's details right now to launch an online store as well as have him come in and help us with some of this entrepreneurs journey workshop thing that we're doing for founders in a bilingual way. So I think that that's something that's missed a lot too when I go to a lot of these conventions. And so um, yeah, anyways, y'all look for me, find me on Facebook. Jonathan, I appreciate you having the conversation, man. I'm glad to see that you're still doing very well and excelling, frankly. So it was nice to catch up, and we need to do it more often.
We do, man. We do. Well, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please leave them below. Whether you're watching on the podcast, leave them below. Whether you guys are watching on YouTube, leave them below. And if there's any specific ones for David, I'll route that to him. I know he's always very active. Me and him, like I said, we've talked, man, like known each
Yeah.
other for multiple years in this sense. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.